We live on the Villa Vie Odyssey, a residential cruise ship, and we have a decision to make. We are going to be leaving the ship for about a month, and we have to decide if we're going to rent the cabin while we are away. And if we do rent the cabin, what's involved in doing so?
Yeah, so anybody that considers renting their cabin when they're away on Villa Vie Odyssey has to consider the pros, the cons. You got to understand the processes. You got to think about pricing and all kind of other things. So today we're going to talk about those, and then we're going to let you know the decision we made as we're gone for this month.
As many of you may remember, we gave you a peek inside our Villa Vie Odyssey cabin in a previous video. Take a look at that.
We hope you like that little overview and tour of the room. And since we're talking about renting it, we thought we'd take a few minutes now and actually walk through some of the things that we think make it comfortable for us as a great second home.
Yeah, let's start with the size of the cabin. So this is a suite, which makes it slightly larger than your standard cabin on the Odyssey. How big is it?
Yeah, we've got 225 square feet inside, and that's about 20.9 square meters or so. So you actually have enough room to have a little space, not just sit on the bed or whatever. We've got the bedding, of course, here. We've got a separate little living area and then a couple of desks in addition to the bathroom and, of course, the outside. So you've got some room to actually be in the room and be comfortable.
And since it's one of the original suites, it has something pretty special, doesn't it?
Yeah. If you look behind us, you'll see, but it's all over the cabin here. It's the original wood. This is one of the original suites for the ship when it was built. So it's got this classic wood behind us, and it's beautiful. It's all real wood. It's highly shiny and beautifully finished, and we really enjoy it.
Yeah. And location.
Yeah.
What's special about the location of this particular cabin?
Well, we like it because it's on the 7th floor, and the 7th floor is, of course, higher up on the ship, which we like, and there are fewer cabins up here. So that's the first thing. Also, this particular cabin is toward the front of the ship, and we're in a little hallway that has only a few cabins on it. So it's really quieter and it's much less trafficked. It's also away from the pools and some of the other things that are above us. So it stays pretty quiet, and you don't really come back this way unless you need to be here.
Yeah. And last but not least, the balcony. Tell them about the balcony.
Well, the balcony kind of defines, the room for us, and it's really gorgeous. We have one of the largest balconies on the ship. Even the superior rooms, which are larger inside than ours, don't have balconies as big as ours. Ours is 120-something square feet, and it's long.
We do love the cabin, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about why we would even consider renting the cabin. Give them an example.
Well, we own a home. Our primary home is in Washington, D.C. So we own that home. We love that home. And obviously, we want to get back there to enjoy it, take care of it, that kind of thing. Yeah.
And then we each have friends and family in other states. So occasionally, we might need to leave the ship and go spend time with them for a bit.
Yeah. I mean, it's not really easy for all of them to come here. And when we go there, we get to see a lot of them. So there's going to be occasions when we're not in DC, but we are seeing friends and family that are important to us. And that gives us an opportunity to see many at once, which means this place will be empty and available to rent if that made sense.
Yeah. And we have to take care of our health as well. So we have to go back and get some regular health checkups, don't we?
Yeah. I mean, we're getting older and we want to take care of ourselves. And I have some specialists like glaucoma and other things in Washington that I have to get really specialized tests for. It's not just you can get off and get them anywhere. So I want to make sure we take care of that, and we get back to Washington for that. So those would be opportunities again where we'd be off the ship as well.
Yeah. And there might be things that are just unplanned, like family emergencies. We hope that wouldn't happen. But there might be things that are unplanned where we need to leave the ship for a bit to take care of things.
That happened with a friend of ours recently,
Yeah,
right? And,
right.
they actually rented theirs, I think.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then there's just, hey, we may want to be somewhere else. We may not want to be at home or one of those other things that we just talked about, but we also may not want to be on the ship. We want to be somewhere else in the world. And if we're gone, we might as well consider it, if we're not going to be here anyway.
Now let's move on to the potential upsides of renting out our cabin. And the most obvious place to start are the financial advantages of doing something like this, right?
Yeah. If we're renting this cabin, we are recouping some of the investment that we have here that really is just going to not happen if we just leave. So we've still got a home in Washington that we're paying for. And we also want to do other things. We don't necessarily want to be in Washington or here. We may want to be traipsing all over Asia somewhere. That comes with additional expenses. So the ability to kind of recoup some of the cost here, as well as maybe fund some of the other things that we want to do, is a nice financial move.
Now, we've been trying to decide how much would we charge for something like this. I mean, this is such kind of a new thing for us. Now, I know you've done a bit of research in this. What have you found?
If today, of course, the prices vary, but today, as of this taping, if you rent directly from Villa Vie, a room like this rents for two people $778 per day. And that's, for however many days you're here. I think they have a minimum of 10 days on the website right now. But many other owners like us are also renting in the marketplace through a variety of ways, and that's less expensive. So owners that have cabins like this are generally renting for between $450 a day and $600 a day. It's cheaper if you stay longer. Right. And of course, it's more expensive if you stay a shorter amount of time.
Now, there are other less tangible benefits to renting out our cabin as well. It would be a shame for the cabin to just sit empty like that. So we want to be able to contribute to the liveliness of the community, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, the financial is really nice, and that's a primary, consideration.
Right,
but we don't like the idea of it just sitting here and being wasteful. So the notion that it would be used, that other people could benefit from it, maybe that couldn't come here otherwise, and that we're adding to the community that's here when we're not, is all good stuff. So there are a lot of things kind of beyond the dollars that do come up when you think about this.
Before we get too carried away with the potential upsides and positives of doing something like this, of renting out our cabin on the Villa Vie Odyssey, let's talk about some of the potential downsides, some of the potential drawbacks. What are some?
I guess the first one is doing something is harder than doing nothing. I mean, if we just let it sit here, it'd definitely be easier. But there's financial cost. I mean, you may have to get a contract built. You may have legal costs. You may have tax implications. You may have cleaning fees or other things. There's just financially, it doesn't all happen for free. And, you've just got to think about stuff like that.
Yeah. And there are logistical costs as well, challenges. For example, the Odyssey is a pretty small ship and there's only limited space for storage. And we would have to figure out where we're going to put our stuff. And since this is our second home, we've brought a lot of stuff here. So we have to figure out, okay, where can we store that where it would be safe?
Yeah, and we don't want to take it all out with us. So, we personalize the space. So we got our pictures on the walls, we got our clothes in the closets, but we want to make sure if we rented this thing that whoever rented it felt comfortable and had the space that they needed. So we'd have to do some work to kind of pull that stuff down, figure out where to store it. I don't think it's impossible. Others have done it, but it takes a little effort, and we would have to figure that out.
Yeah. Other logistics that might be a bit of a challenge is just how do we coordinate check-in and check-out and all of the renter questions from afar? I mean, we will probably be on the other side of the world. How would we handle that?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to think about that. So say it's rented, that renter deserves to be supported, just like in a hotel or an Airbnb. So we have to figure out, since we're the one renting it, how that happens. And of course, we're probably, to your point, not best equipped to do that because we're traipsing all over the world. So we have to determine who's going to do that. Are they qualified? Will the renter have good support? And, will we have confidence that things are going well so we're not getting, calls and, feeling bad about somebody not having a great experience in our rental.
Yeah. And fortunately, there are some third-party platforms out there that can help, right?
Yeah. So there are some third-party, websites. There are Facebook groups and that kind of stuff. So we are seeing more and more mechanisms where folks are able to connect renters that want to rent with owners that want to rent and kind of put those together. So that marketplace is evolving. Even this discussion today is a way to, talk about things like that. We've seen that on other YouTube channels. So that is, something that I think will help that, and we won't have to do it all on our own.
Yeah. And there are other considerations as well. And I think this is where I struggle the most. For example, like this is our home, and it would be very weird to bring in a renter, as nice as they may be, into our home and what that would be like for us.
Yeah, and I mean, I get it, and we had a condominium at the beach we used to rent, and it always worked out fine. But you have to remember that other people are going to be in the space, right? And you're going to have to kind of accept that because things will be different when you go back. There may be, a little something moved, or you may find that, X, Y, or Z happened. That's part of the experience. I still think, it's something to consider. But then you have to look in that in context of everything else.
Yeah. And then there's also something about the Odyssey itself and this particular kind of cruise ship. It's not like any other regular cruise ship company. It's a community. So we want to be careful, I guess, about who we would bring into the community as a renter because we'd be kind of responsible for that.
Yeah. It's something to consider. And that's a real need to make sure you've got folks coming on board that we think have the best chance of having a great experience and also contribute positively or at least neutrally to the community. I think that's doable. A lot of folks are already renting. We've got folks on the ship to support them and security if we need it. So I think there are ways to, work within that, but it's clearly something to consider.
So you may be wondering, how exactly would we go about renting our cabin on the Villa Vie Odyssey? What are the practical side of things on how you get that done on this ship? So we recommend starting with drafting up a contract, right?
Yeah, you need a legal contract anyway to kind of define the expectations and the responsibilities of both us and the renter. But that also really forces you to think through exactly what you're doing. And so there's some benefit of having the contract, and that's obviously necessary even for the ship. But it also really requires you to articulate what you want to do, how you want to do it, and what everybody's expected.
Now, we touched on this a little bit, but we have to then get the cabin listed somehow on some sort of platform.
Yeah, you got to market it. So there's all kind of third-party websites. There's Facebook and other things. So people, as what we have found is a lot of folks are very interested in renting on Villa Vie. So I think there's interest out there, but you're only as good as if they know it's available. So getting it out there and letting people see it and think about it, compare it to other offers and that kind of thing is really important.
Yeah. And then probably arguably one of the most important parts is somehow coordinating with the ship to get the renter access to the ship and on the manifest.
Yeah, and that takes a lot of moving pieces. So the manifest is who is actually on the ship. It's an official document, right? Because we're traveling all over the world. So that has to be articulated perfectly. And the ship can't leave if that's out of whack with immigration. You have to think about things like setting up onboard accounts so that somebody can charge a drink in the bar. Yeah. You got to think about all the key cards. You got to think about collecting passports and immigration and a litany of other things. There's also a charge from the ship for doing things like that has to be paid. So there's a lot of stuff underneath that is necessary, and thankfully so, because you don't want just people wandering on and off the ship. And those are all things that have to be considered.
Right. And then even after the rental period is done, there's still things to do, correct?
Yeah. I mean, you have to move the person out on time. You got to take them off the manifest. You got to clean the room. You got to do an inventory of the room. You got to security check and all of those things to get their luggage out of here properly that are required. May have to get the new renter on the manifest or us back on the manifest because obviously we wouldn't be here. The new renter would be coming on board. So there's just things that happen before, during, and after a rental experience that have to kind of come together to do it elegantly.
Now, we should mention that there is a way to cut through all of that. For renters, they have the option to go directly through Villa Vie, right?
Yeah, like we talked about a while ago, Villa Vie rents directly the inventory that they have, the unsold inventory here on the ship. And they've even, and the prices I mentioned earlier, like for a cabin like ours was $700 and whatever dollars a day it was. You can do it directly through them. And of course, they handle everything. And they even have some new offers where if you can go and complete in the next 90 days, there are discounts that apply, especially if you're like wanting to get it done in the next 30. So there are opportunities out there to get them cheaper if you can do that quickly and don't have to overplan.
Stepping back for a moment, our exploration into if we should rent our cabin or not raises a really intriguing question. Could renting cabins on residential cruise ships become the thing of the future?
Yeah, I think so. I think, who would have ever thought, however many years ago, Airbnb would have been a whole thing, as a competitor to hotels. And, we did a whole video on, even though we love Airbnbs and had so much success with them that, it was starting to kind of get crazy. Who saw residential cruise coming the way it obviously has for us, but we all talked about that for a long time, wanting to live on a cruise ship.
Yeah, we did talk about it before it even became
a thing, right? And stringing them back to back and thinking about, hey, could you do this discounted cruises forever and live here cheaper than living at home? And this thing is kind of manifest into now residential cruising is definitely a real term, and we're living that life every day. So I think it's definitely an opportunity. I think there's clearly people that would love it and others that wouldn't. But, if you thought about, renting a condo at the beach,
right,
or, an Airbnb in Paris or that kind of thing, the notion of something like this as an alternative makes
just
total
becoming
sense.
another option for travelers out there.
Yeah. And of course, it'll evolve like anything else, but I think it could absolutely be an option. And, if you are an owner on a ship, like we've been talking about, it could be really good for you as well as for the renter, just like a condo at the beach. So I think so.
So after carefully weighing all the potential benefits and cost of this decision, what did we finally come up with?
We are not going to rent it this time.
This time being the operative phrase, I suppose.
That's right. So after the discussion we had with ourselves and that we've shared with you today, we don't think we have enough time. We don't think we have enough runway. And we honestly are not going to be gone long enough for this upcoming departure we have for it to really be worth it to us. I don't think it's worth it for this time.
Yeah, don't think so either. But there's a potential opportunity in the future because sometime later in the year, we're going to be leaving the ship when it reaches Manila, Philippines, because we want to springboard and travel the region for a bit, and we won't be back on the ship again until it reaches Cairns, Australia. So maybe then?
Yeah, well, I think we're going to do it. We're not going to commit to it forever. It may or may not work. But I think trying it is definitely something that we need to do. We said we weren't going to.
I have to say, I struggle with it from the emotional side, like this is my home, this is my space. But it just makes such logical sense. So if you put all that aside, it's probably the logical thing to do.
I think it is. I mean, we have our home in DC, we have this place, and we're talking about being in neither of those for 6 weeks. And if, us letting somebody else use this, they get the benefit of it. We get the benefit of the financial piece of it. I think the logistical and the emotional things, other people can handle them, we can handle them. That will actually allow us to put some of that extra money toward what we're spending. So it's in a way kind of redeploying this investment toward what we want to do instead of paying for this and DC and more travel. And, practically speaking, that's just a smart move. So I think we will try it. I don't know how yet. We have not figured it out, but we're going to figure it out.
So what do you think? Are we doing the right thing? What should we do? And what would you do in this situation? Let us know in the comments.
We so appreciate you being here with us. As always, let us know what you think. Subscribe, like, and remind, and we will see you soon.